Viewer discretion advised. This video contains discussion about alcohol and drugs, intended for humor and entertainment purposes only. We do not encourage or promote drug or alcohol use in any way.
Anyway, welcome to the Unrivaled Potential podcast this wonderful Thursday morning. Mike's birthday, so it's going to be a great day no matter what. And thanks for checking in.
Yeah. What are we talking about today, Ryan?
I don't know,
busy
Mr.
weekend and
Mr. Viva Las Vegas. How was Vegas?
it was good. I won. I was waiting. I'm not a huge fan of these new slot machines, right? That they're just. I mean, gambling's kind of mindless anyway. But at least if you're playing cards or doing something, and you just hit the button, and you don't know whether you win or not. Just all them little things lining up. And anyway, we were waiting for the show. So we had 15 minutes. So I went and put $20 in and won 197. So that paid for the whole trip pretty much. So it was pretty good. And then my buddy Gino, he went over to the Keno machine, put in $5, put his finger across the top, just swiped all the little buttons, and he won 387 on the first one, and then he won 427 on the next one.
Hallelujah!
So I didn't have to pay for anything the whole trip. It was good.
That's
a little bit
awesome.
of gas.
That is awesome. That's the way to do Vegas. Yeah, I'm such a tightwad. I go to Vegas and I'm like, yuck, I'm losing money.
Yeah.
And because of my attitude, I never win. I
don't know whether attitude really has anything to do with it. I mean, they say that it's important in life, right, Ryan, to have a positive attitude and you'll always win. But when it comes to gambling, it's one of those things. What I did was the $20 that
Did you pray first? Lord, please bless this $20.
Yeah, I don't want to bring God into Vegas like that. That's just like...
Oh, he's there.
Yeah, it's just too much testing, isn't it? And so I put my $20 back in the wallet, and then I got reckless with the rest, right? And I didn't lose anything. And that's just how I do things.
That's the way to do it. I was going to tell you something about something, but
I didn't make it in time to play pickleball. They were going for pickleball that afternoon. I just made it in time for this one show, dinner, and then catching up.
When you went on Saturday and came
I was playing racquetball Saturday morning, and when they text me back, I was having breakfast with John and Eric. I was like, all right, well, I'll go clean the shop, and then I got a text message like, yeah, sure, come on down. All right, going to Vegas. Started cruising down the highway. Yeah. I took my van over to the airport, got the rental car, and then off I went.
Nice. Oh, I was curious. I was like, did he drive his motorcycle or?
I wanted to. Now, there was a big part of me who was like, yeah, okay, I'll do it. But it was snowing here that day, and I knew it would warm up as I got over there. But man, I'm glad I didn't, because the wind was horrendous in a couple of those spots. And I don't want. I mean, this bike's heavy enough; I wouldn't have to worry about it. But I don't know. It was good being in a car. I got to FaceTime Jess and the girls a little bit, and it's hard to do that on a motorcycle.
It's a little hard.
Yeah. I have a nice headset in that thing that you can't even tell I'm riding a bike.
Oh, that's true. I probably talked to you when you were on the motorcycle.
There's been a couple times, yeah. And
it's amazing technology.
But the FaceTime thing would be difficult.
Yeah.
I mean, technically, you'd just be looking at someone's helmet, right? Because I have a little phone stand, and you just put the phone on it. I guess you could see it and then still talk, but you wouldn't be able to see their face. And
for those of you who don't know, his motorcycle's parked in our studio.
Yeah, that's why we keep looking over that direction. It's not there's just some stranger.
What's over there?
But I've been recently getting into the whole FaceTime thing, and a friend of mine said that it would be a good idea for a close connection kind of thing. And I don't fully understand that, but it doesn't matter. I think if it works, it works.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, there's absolutely something to be said for a face-to-face communication, and FaceTime is the next best thing to actual face-to-face. There's all the stats on it and things like that, but ultimately you hopefully will see the difference. And you've heard heard people say, yeah, I prefer FaceTime because I feel more of a connection.
Yeah. And there's no judgment on that. I just, I just don't fully get it. But it's okay. I don't have to understand any of this stuff.
I don't know how a computer works really, but I use it a lot.
Yeah.
Same with an internal combustion engine. I'm like, so the gas and spark. Yeah, all right. It's going. Let's go.
Gas, yeah. Gas, air, boom.
Gas, air, boom. Wheels, whee. Very good. Well, I'm glad you got to go. I'm glad you made it back safely because, gosh, Vegas.
Yeah, I could have gotten stuck there, It was 78 degrees. Yeah, we just had a relaxing time, I got to cook breakfast on Sunday morning for their whole family, so that was cool because the women were all cooking and I was sitting there driving myself nuts watching. And I gotta be careful about saying this now. So yesterday, as I brought up the fact that they were watching some stupid TV show called Squid Games. And apparently that's the wrong thing to say in this office because it was a really good show. And I thought it was the dumbest thing. So that part of it, anyway, so they were like, well, why don't you just go watch TV, Mike? And I'm like, or I could cook bacon in the kitchen. I think I'd rather do that, And then, so they left me alone. They went and watched this TV show and I cooked breakfast for all 8 of us.
Cool.
And had a good time. It was nice. And went for a walk on Sunday night.
It's so good to get out of town where all the chores of either the home or the shop or whatever, you can't do them. You can't. So there's just no, shouldn't be any guilt or constant, I should just be doing this,
Shouldn't be. Yeah, it's easier said than done.
Yeah,
right?
It is. It really is. But at least you can say, well, I can't do that right now. So might as well take a walk and cook some bacon. I mean, there's actually a commercial on the radio that says man therapy. And it's talking about a roman therapy. And it's, the smell of bacon cooking.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I went and found a cigar shop just down the road. And
there you go. Bacon and cigars.
And I didn't
talk about good aromas.
Couldn't do it in the house, but yeah.
Well, like you said, you took a walk. Wonderful. Well,
nature's aphrodisiac, it's the smell of cigars.
Oh, I thought it was bacon.
Oh, well, that may be.
Doggy.
Yeah.
Just pig.
Yeah.
You go out chubby chasing, you can just put the bacon Anyway, so that's a great way to segue into our topic today. How do you deal with the hard times when the phone's not ringing, guys are being knuckleheads, or customers are complaining or whatever? How do you get through that? Because every business owner is going to go through it, whether it's on a daily basis because you have a big organization and there's always somebody out of line, or you're just getting started and maybe the first couple months or years even were amazing, and then all of a sudden, something slows down, stops, or you just start getting cranky customers. Maybe you grew fast and your quality control went downhill, and all of a sudden you got a bunch of bad reviews because Susie's not answering the phone right and Steve's not turning wrenches right or whatever.
Fucking Susie and Steve, the worst. That's why they don't work here no more. Yeah.
That's right. Well, what was his name?
You don't work here no more.
Lights. All right. They shall remain nameless, both for our sake and theirs.
Yeah.
So how do you getting away is one way to deal with it, but we can't always just zip down to Vegas and hang out with.
Can't all just like the perks of being the owner, just always leaving. Yeah.
I apologize. You can't always just because anybody can go to Vegas. Not everyone should, but anybody can. It's just it doesn't work every weekend, right? Some weekends you gotta work, and
you gotta be responsible. It's just like I'm down here again.
Well, on some weekends you get to do cool stuff like take your daughter to prom. So can't go to Vegas this weekend, but
you figure, $120 in gas and free living. It was just a cheap, inexpensive getaway. So how do you handle it? Well, shout out to Maker's Mark Whiskey. No.
At least do something local. Shout out to Storm King. They got the best whiskey in America.
Yeah. Well, that's true. I mean, as long as they sponsor me, but their shots are expensive. Yeah.
See, so are Maker's Mark.
So is Maker's Mark, but I have contacts there now. So I was flying down last time to Pensacola to see the kids. 2 weeks or a week, whatever it was. Yep. The couple I was with, I was sitting talking to them. They were from Frisco, Texas.
Sweet.
And so obviously they were talkative, so I got to know them a little bit. And their oldest daughter works she's lead marketing for Maker's Mark whiskey in New York. Oh. That's where she's based out of.
Do they sponsor podcasts?
And she's single, and they was so I had to let them know because they were, we were really talkative, and I was just telling her about everything we were doing and stuff like that. And then I hadn't got to the point where I was telling them why I was going down to Pensacola to
I'm going to see my girlfriend,
my daughters and my girlfriend, and they were like, yeah, she's just been single, perfectly happy, very extroverted, and most guys don't like that. And I was like, oh yeah, they get really insecure about that. I've never been that way, but they can like.
I was just walking right into it.
It's like,
they're like,
can we get your phone number? Let me take a picture really quick. The favorite son-in-law, and so anyway,
they were planning weddings.
We got to talking, and then his daughter flies all over the place, marketing and doing booths for Maker's Mark whiskey. I was like, that would be a dangerous girlfriend to have for me.
I think for most guys.
And anyway, so I
broke their hearts
to distract. Anyway, that was from the main point. Yeah, alcohol is obviously an easy one to fall into. When times get stressful like that,
I'm looking for positive ways to deal with it.
Positive ways to deal with it.
So all right, we knocked Vegas and alcohol off the list. Let's go back to the positive things like scripture,
about nicotine,
prayer, and meditation, things like that.
Yeah. So, so I think that
heroin is great. It totally takes my mind right off of it.
You don't even think about bills anymore. You got to think how relaxing that lifestyle is. All you do is have to think about one thing.
Where's my next shot coming from, right?
Don't have to worry about multitasking. All you do is you
take the shot and you're like,
yeah. Well, anyways, I was listening to something.
The moral of the story, kids, is try heroin.
I was listening to a podcast while I was driving yesterday, and
we're gonna get kicked off YouTube.
Yeah, right.
Stupid YouTube.
Well, I think she puts the viewer discretion advised on the front of the.
Good.
Yeah.
Even for the adults. It's not for everybody.
So I was listening to this podcast. He was saying how guys think vertically, right? So we don't have the ability to think. I can do so many powerful things, make all these decisions, but if you ask me to have a conversation while I'm texting someone, I cannot. It's just not capable. So but whereas a woman, for the stereotypically can think about all 20 things that need to get done in this time frame, but you ask them to make a big decision like where should we go to have dinner and what do you actually want out of life, and they can't think in that that frame. Anyway, I thought it was fantastic, and so often, not often, it's when you go through that stage in life or through a cycle where you look at your dog and you go, I'm jealous.
You lucky some bitch.
Yeah, and you get that moment and you're like, if you were hooked on drugs, it'd be very simple to think about at the moment. More importantly, though, what do you do when times get hard in your company?
And you've got too many kids to be a drug addict.
Yeah, you've got too many kids and responsibilities, and you just don't like how it makes you feel.
It's that after effect that really gets you, right?
It's the after effect, waking up in a hotel somewhere and you don't know what's happened, and
sitting in a beanbag chair naked eating Cheetos.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. All right. So I think it's the normal disciplines that make it. You have to go back to them, right? Because it's very easy to catch myself, especially right now as it's been somewhat stressful, to miss out on those things, and so then it's And you get caught up and you wake up in the morning like, I should be doing something, I should be creating this, but I have to sit down to write down in the evening what I need to do tomorrow. Right. And so I have the morning routine, which it's not necessary, but it works well for me in these moments, right? When you're making money, it's really easy to do all those things, the disciplines, right? So wake up.
Like, I know this is this has created the result that I want.
What is the, like, waking up at 4 a.m. if you're struggling financially, it's really hard to want to wake up and sit down and read a book. It's wake up and I should be doing something, right? And that's the battle I've had, is I should be doing something. And even switching to a management role or whatever, it's like, oh, I should be doing something. And so I wake up and you just kick your feet out of bed or the hammock or wherever you sleep. You go
the bench.
Yeah, I read my book.
Under the bridge, whatever.
Yeah, I read my book and read my Bible. And then, unless we're podcasting, I go to the gym, right? And that is the morning routine that has to happen no matter what. And then after that, normally I have 2 to 3 things that I need to accomplish. And you just have to make sure you write them down, because else you get into, and I caught myself last week doing this, you get to the end of the day and you're like, I haven't accomplished anything other than these few disciplines.
I put out some fires.
Yeah, but you get caught up in putting out fires,
flies.
But you need to be actually writing down the things that say, okay, this is what I need to be doing to keep growing the business, because else you get to floating, right? And so it's the consistency of the discipline that says I got to get up either way, and that is what pushes me through the day.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, you're perfectly congruent with a lesson I heard on Sunday. He was talking about pre-sighting, deciding beforehand what you're going to do in a situation. Because if you do that, whether that's in a self-discipline issue with drugs or alcohol or bad habits or whatever, or in your business, if you pre-sight, hey, every morning I'm waking up at 4 a.m. I'm going to do these 3 things, and then I will accomplish these tasks that I laid out the night before. That's going to, one, carry you through those hard times, because you already know, hey, I just got to keep doing these things because they're what makes me money, or what builds my company. And 2, it doesn't let you get distracted and go, oh gosh, I got to make payroll this week. What do I do? You're just, no, I know X, Y, and Z are my 3 disciplines that I got to do, and then I can take care of A, B, and C that I wrote down on my list last night. So that's huge.
But preparation is something I'm not very good at, and that's something.
I think that's another thing that is like a man-woman thing. We're really good at going and doing. I know my wife specifically, she's way better at planning and prepping for going and doing.
Right. And there's something to be said for, having to sit down and physically prepare for something. And I think as I get into more like speaking arrangements, that kind of thing, like preparing that thought process, practicing those kinds of things, I've always been terrible at that, memorizing stuff. I just need to make it habits,
Mm-hmm.
So that's trying to learn. That's a weakness of mine, and listening to several other business owners, that are successful, like preparation, that makes the difference in times like what February and beginning of March has been, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is I should have prepared for this, because else it gets, it's taking that ownership of, okay, I can't control all of these things, but I can kind of, if I know that they're coming, right? How do you prepare for tough things in life? Well, you build a savings account, right? I mean, so there's a level of ownership to that goes, oh, I should have been prepared for this. Lesson learned, and move forward. Right?
Mm-hmm. Very good. So those are some of the ways that you work through it. Is there anything you do to keep your mind in the right spot? Because I know that, I guess those disciplines will help with that. Is there anything else that you like to focus on, or you want to, I don't know.
If I get too overwhelmed with it all, then I have to speak positively to myself. So normally I leave the room and I just go, all right, it's okay, right? It's like we're gonna make it. Go do a reset. Honestly, riding the motorcycle when it's warm out is a really healthy way for me to do that. Having the ability now to, with this new vehicle coming into where I can leave the office for a minute and reset, is probably good, because I get stuck in that desk and it's not my favorite spot to be. And And so just taking a second to listen to some good music, that really helps.
So some good music, something positive to reset your brain.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Because I get stuck in looking at bills, and you're like, crap.
How are we going to pay that one?
Yeah.
How are we going to pay this one? Oh, if we don't get a call right now, we're not going to be able to pay.
And then you go back to the whole thought process of which, it's my job to be, I think anyway, as the owner, to be sitting there going, and the visionary. I guess that's my role, right? I think every owner is just a little bit different, but my role in this specific business is the visionary, and so it's my job to be like, how can I take this and make more money? And it's not my job to sit there and go, how can I hold on to this money and save money? Because then we're stuck. Right.
Yeah.
It's somebody else's position to do that.
You need a CFO or
you need to have somebody that's doing that, and that's other people's positions, not mine. And so I have to, but it's very easy to me to fall back into that, and it's not my natural bent is not to sit there and hold on to my money.
You're not great at it. It takes you away from what you are good at.
Right. And then I get
powerful lessons here on Unrivaled Potential.
Yeah. And then I sit there and I go, I fall back into a mindset that I don't enjoy.
Yeah.
Right. And it's very complacent. It's very floating. And I'm more prone to drinking alcohol when I get into the moment of saving money, because honestly, it quietens my brain down from wanting to think like that. Right.
Oh.
So, well, I mean, any kind of addictive quality is, it makes people complacent. You get really
spending money makes me want to drink.
Yeah, big difference. Yeah, as I
just kidding. I don't really want to drink.
Yeah, but I also fall into to that. It's like, oh yeah, I want to go do these things, but I can't. And oftentimes it happens in culture, especially American culture, of where you're not that everyone that drinks is impoverished, right? But it makes you.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, but there is a level of that. It happens in both classes, right? Both classes of people.
Squirrel. So the important things to remember are have your discipline set up, have a good team around you so they can encourage you and keep you on the positive track, and if you need to, get out of the office, get some fresh air, and start speaking positivity in your life. Give it the old Jack Handy. I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and gosh darn it, people like me. Never seen that? Oh, you loser. Thanks for tuning into the Unrivaled podcast. We'll see you next week.
We'll finish our conversation next week on alcohol and drugs. Yeah. and the positive effects on your life.
And remember, kids, don't do drugs.
Yeah. Later.